Hello, it's Dave the Dead here. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm discussing the vintage collection, the 3 3/4 inch line from Hasbro, and asking, are we past the point of no return? Now, what I mean by that is we've got 30 plus years of modern action figures from Hasbro, discounting the original Kenner line from 1978 to 1985. Hasbro bought action figures back in the mid-90s, 30 years worth of action figures. We've seen countless re-releases and repacks and upgrades to some of our beloved heroes such as Luke and Han, Leia. But there's certain characters that are sort of one and done for Hasbro, and that's fine. We are at a point though with 30 years plus of modern figures where some of the articulation is no longer up to today's standards, and we are in desperate need of updated tooling. This guy comes to mind, and again, at time of filming, we don't have a VC375. I strongly think it will be this character, C3PO. This is a Vintage Collection 1.0 release. He has had reissues in the 3 3/4 inch Black series, and also again in TVC 2.0. But it's not good enough anymore, is it? We wouldn't accept that figure in the line in this day and age if it was to be released now. What you see in the background and what I'm going to show on screen are a smattering of figures where they sort of tread the line. Let's have a look. All the way back there, IG88. This is a Saga Collection release from 2006. It's a fantastic figure. And to be honest, actually, if that got reissued, I'd have no problem with it. But we've seen what they can do with IG11 in the Vintage Collection, and their articulation is superb. He's an original 96 character. I would love to see IG88 get a fully realized figure. But does that mean we need a retool, or can we just simply get a reissue? But that's an old sculpt, and even with some of the slightly newer sculpts, I think it's fair to say they're no longer sort of up to today's standards. This is Ula from the Shadows of the Dark Side line. I mean, that was sort of crossover period between the Legacy Collection and the Vintage Collection. Now, Ula may be problematic for Hasbro to release now. I don't know. I would hope not, but again, they couldn't just re-release that figure. If they were to do Ula, it would be all new tooling from the ground up, I'm sure. When we got Darth Revan introduced to the line, Hasbro originally wanted to just simply reissue a 30th anniversary mold, and the fans quite rightly rallied against this. And you can just see on screen, this is a figure with very limited articulation. It does have a removable hood all in one, but there's no soft goods here. He does have ball jointed elbows and arms, elbows and shoulders, the swivel wrists and that, but it's an incredibly limited articulation elsewhere from the waist down. And you can see what Hasbro can do with a character like that now. Why would you want this version when Hasbro can, with the right tooling, bring you this? And with sensible, repaints, give you a 2-for-1. Well, at least a 2-for-1 from Hasbro's perspective. There's many Legacy Collection figures from Jabba's Palace and the Cantina, the price of which, to get these on the secondary market, they command high prices. Like this Nikto Gunner Jiran is one that I don't have. I would love to add to the collection. You can see Lisa Serlin, Pons Limbeck back there. But again, are they at the point where if Hasbro was to reissue these or bring out, say a new Pons Limbic, would collectors be happy with swivel hips, for example? Now, we've seen Dr. Everson and Ponda Baba get reissues in 2025, and they have those swivel hips. Me personally, I probably wouldn't mind if this particular figure got reissued. I'd rather collectors just had the opportunity to pick one up. But again, the articulation being what it is and what we can get now, it's only when you sort of see the updated release is what they can actually achieve. Padme Amidala, this is the 3 3/4 inch Black Series release that also got the Legacy Collection Droid Factory treatment. So this is sort of early 2010s. But again, Hasbro has deemed her not to be up to modern standards. She is getting a Vintage Collection release in 2026, and it has the full range of articulation and the photoreal likeness, which is fantastic. So, you know, a Hasbro considering those sort of figures, or maybe the key main characters, to be sort of untouchable now, like they have to have all new sculpts. Again, we've seen they've done it in recent years. This was the 40th anniversary release of Leia Endor, and this just reused. This was basically just the Saga Collection version from the mid 2000s. It was a 20-year-old figure at the time, wasn't particularly great, and yeah, and that's what Hasbro decided to put out. So yeah, there's times where they'll do it, and there's times where they won't. And yes, I guess I'm asking the question: what would you be happy with? Would you be happy with Hasbro continuing to do this for certain figures, re-release an older mold, or should everything be new from the ground up? Another figure from the original Kenner line that did see a modern Hasbro update in the Power of the Jedi line, no less, 25 plus years ago. This figure is. You can see what they could do with that figure back then. FX7. Could you ever see this figure getting put on a standard card back? Possibly not. Hasbro have already said that that sort of level of sort of the small details here, they possibly can't replicate anymore. I don't know how true that is. Again, we've seen with characters like IG-11 that they can do wonders. But yeah, where does it end? I mean, again, that tooling's probably too old to revisit. But if you were to get a new version of it, like, well, are we going to be waiting years and years and years more? We've seen recently with General Veers. I don't have the new release, but this was the Attack Commander from TVC 1.0. And it's a great figure, don't get me wrong. But they've since updated the officer mold, and the detailing that you can get on these figures now just means that, you know, when you've got this, I'm not saying this is obsolete anymore, but you're never going to get a reissue of those sort of figures now when the new tooling exists. Anakin is another one that comes to mind. Although I wasn't a fan of the head sculpt, it's miles better than its previous counterpart, which had not just one Vintage Collection release, but 2 Vintage Collection releases. So we've had an Anakin since then, like an all newly tooled Anakin figure. So again, this is just my it's just some thoughts on where we think Hasbro could go. What do you think? Would you welcome certain reissues of particularly harder to find figures? I think that's where it is for me. That's where I would like Hasbro to sensibly repack figures. There's certainly Jabba's Palace and Cantina figures that I think could see a reissue. I wouldn't have a problem with. Just from the aftermarket prices, you can see which figures are still commanding a high price, and it would be nice for collectors, particularly those that back the Barge and the Cantina, to get a decent shot without spending crazy amounts on the aftermarket. They're just some thoughts from me. I'd love to know what you guys think. Who are your top figures that you'd like to see re-released in the line by Hasbro? Thinking like Legacy Collection era, maybe even going back to the 30th anniversary collection. Or are you of the opinion that Hasbro should no longer touch reissues whatsoever, like under any circumstance, unless it's sort of maybe, if they need to do another wave of, say, Luke Farmboy or Leia or Han, like one of the newer releases? Which sort of camp do you fall in? Do you fall somewhere in between? I think I'm somewhere in between by the sounds of the way I'm talking. But again, you can see on screen what figures, where Hasbro can do great things with, and where there's potential for a re-release, and where there's absolutely categorically no chance that collectors want to see certain figures back out. Yeah, I've been David the Dead. Drop your top 5 reissues in the comments below. Like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Keep the conversation going online. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.